Hello, everyone, and how have you been doing? Welcome to the another episode of Setback Leadership Podcast, Breaking Glass Ceilings. Our today's guest is the epitome of this phrase, breaking glass ceilings. Why do I say so? You will get to know when you listen to her story during the conversation. Neeraja Ganesh, how did she become a sought after business leader of today? Whereas at the age of 21, her father said, I will get you married as soon as you complete your graduation. How did Neeraja Ganesh made sure that even though she did not have a dream to become a corporate leader, even though she just merely wanted to be a homemaker, from there became this kind of a leader. Neeraja has 30 plus years of corporate experience in many roles. She started her corporate career as a programmer and then went on to lead and scale many IT services organizations. After her corporate stint, she realized that there is a lot of diversity and inclusion related needs that the organizations face. And that's when she decided to join a not for profit and a educational institution to share her deep body of work and knowledge. Currently, she is writing a book called No. I am not telling you the name here. I will tell you the name during our conversation. Let's hear what Neeraja Ganesh has to say about leadership, about breaking glass ceilings and stereotypes. Shall we? Hey Neeraja, welcome to the Setback Leadership Podcast once again. I've been waiting to have you on the show. How are you doing?
Doing very well, Srijata, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. I have been watching some of the earlier episodes, and when you sent out the email to me, I said, "Okay, it's me, my turn," and I'm so very glad that we are here to have this conversation.
Yes, indeed, it is your turn, and I couldn't be more excited than this to have you on the show because I know the person that is sitting right in front of me, inside that person, behind that person, has a huge body of work, and a huge leadership experience. So you are the right person for this place, I'm sure. So let me straight get into the conversation with the first question. I know you have a huge amount of experience in the leadership space in the corporates, and now with your other work that you are doing and everything else. I will keep coming to that one by one. But then, how did the Neeraja Ganesh that you are today came to be? What
Okay,
it was when you started your journey?
all right. So let me confess a bit here that I've never aspired to have a career. So that might
Ah,
kind of, push and put some people off. But that's the reality. So I come from a very, very conservative Tamil, Brahmin Iyer family, and I'm an only child. And my parents brought me up to be a typical girl, and all that was spoken about at home was you will finish your graduation and then you will be married. So there was no talk of work. Career was far, far away. And I was okay with that. I was not one of those rebellious ones. In fact, I was a very meek, timid, shy girl. And at some point in time, we'll talk about how this girl transformed to what she is today. But that's how the journey started. So I, of course, finished my undergrad, and my father started looking out for those grooms. And inside me, I just wanted to make some money. I wanted to make my own money. I don't know why, but it was there. And it was the IT boom, I'm talking about the early 90s. So I told my father that let me go and do an, computer course. He said, okay, but if I find the boy and he says, stop, you will stop the course. I said, okay, let's just go ahead and do that. And that's one of the things which now when I reflect, I really, think that's what has kept me going because resources were very scarce and I held on to them and I made the most out of everything. So I didn't sit and fight it out saying that no, it's a 2-year course and don't find a groom for me for 2 years. Then you said, don't even go. I said, it's all right. Let me get on with it. When you find the groom, that time we will look at that. So I got onto this course, and it was a 4 semester course. I finished that, and when I was in the course itself, I got a contract assignment with Sonata. It's one of the leading IT companies, and it was a contract assignment. Again, I was doing a course, and this was a 8-hour job, and it was very hard to kind of manage the two. We were working in shifts. So it was even more difficult because you didn't know the amount of time you had to spend at an IIT, because when is the lab available, how much of practice you need to do, and all of that. So I really couldn't stick to a particular shift. For the first time in my life, I think I opened up and spoke to that project manager, and I told her, I don't know how to handle these two. Okay. Now I had two options. I could have quit the job and just focused on studies because it was important. Or I could have said, let me stop the studies because I want to make some money. So let me go to the job. But I didn't want to do either. I wanted both because time was running out. We didn't know when this groom will turn up. So first time I opened my mouth and I asked my project manager. As I didn't even ask, I just told her that I don't know how to take this forward. And in a couple of days, she came and told me, I'm going to make an exception for you. I'm going to give you a dedicated PC. You can come anytime, you can go anytime, as long as you finish the work that you are supposed to do in that week. And it is to the same quality standards that we expect of any other team member. And to me, I think that was probably the way this career has just started off. If I had not asked, I don't know where I would have been. So one of the lessons that I always tell people is, can you just go and ask? What's the worst that can happen? You might have been, told, okay, no, you finish your course, you come back later, or no, you quit that and, you have to work here. But we'll evaluate that later. In the current situation, can we open up and speak up and ask for what we want? So that's how I started off. And of course, from there, I went and worked at this organization called as Manhattan Associates. And the groom had not yet arrived. So
I was about to ask you that question. What happened to the groom in this entire conversation? Where are we missing the
yes.
groom? Thank God it didn't appear.
So I was very particular about being in India after marriage also. I'm an only child, so I was very particular that I'm around my parents. It was the time of everyone going to the US. IT was booming, lot of outsourcing was happening, and body shopping was happening. Most of the eligible bachelors were either in the US or going to the US or maybe some other Western country. And I had put my foot down that I would like to be in India. So my father was struggling to find this person.
Smart choice there, huh? Neeraja, you knew.
And so it took him about 4 years to actually find Mr. Ganesh, to whom I'm married. In fact, I celebrated my 26th wedding anniversary 2 days ago. Yeah, I think these are some of the important lessons when you reflect back, right? Um, I clung on to what was available to me without fighting it out. The second was, once I got the feeling and the feelers of what it is to work, and my parents also saw it, that I was enjoying it. I then went and asked my father, can you find someone who will be okay with me working? So step by step negotiations, not on the first go. The
Yes.
minute you finish your college, he's saying, I'll find you a guy, you will not work. And I'm saying, no, big jhagda nahi. Let's take it, one at a time, and we'll deal with it. So he had also seen it and he said, okay, now I will refine my search criteria, Google search. And it became even more harder, I think. But eventually, he did find the guy, and the marriage happened. And by then, I was in my third job, which was ANZ. Actually, I have to tell you this. The only job that I voluntarily quit was from Sonata. After 2 years, because I felt, I needed better roles and better money. So I went and, picked up this role in Manhattan Associates. And after I got that offer, it was a fantastic offer, almost double the salary that I was getting. I got another interview call. And I went and attended that. And since I had an offer letter, they bettered the offer. So I came back and I called the MD of Manhattan Associates. It was a very small company at that time. Now I think it's much bigger here in India. A very, very small company. I called the MD and I said, see, I have another offer and it's a better offer. He said, come and meet me. And I went and met him. And he said, Neeraja, I can better the offer that you have got. We can always do that. But he said, see, after 6 months, there will be a performance appraisal. And I know for sure you will perform exceedingly well. But because I'm already going to take you at a very high salary, I will not be able to give you that good increment. So there are two things. Either I better it right now, you come and after 6 months, you will not get that kind of an increment and you will feel bad that you put in so much and still you didn't get a great increment. Or you come to me in this organization at this salary and 6 months, I will tell you, you will not regret it. And I chose to join them at that salary. And in 6 months, and in those 6 months, I got some fantastic work. Nobody else in the organization was getting those kinds of projects. And as he said, he further doubled my salary after 6 months, and I probably was, the best paid employee. So some of these
Wow.
decisions, yeah. Today, you see, I almost call them kids. They shop for offers, jobs. With one offer, they go and say, okay, negotiate, get. But I think sometimes you have to evaluate the organization, the values, the culture, the learning, and then money is needed, but it's not the only thing. And hence, you kind of choose what kind of roles and organizations you're going into. So quickly, I will move on to ANZ, which is where the transformation happened from this weak, timid, shy girl to someone who grew the leadership ladder. And Manhattan, I quit because they closed down their operations in India. I had an opportunity to go to US because they were going back to the US, but as I already said, I wanted to be in India, so I said no to that. Got the role in ANZ, stayed there for 16 years, a fantastic organization. And there's a story with this also. I was I had technical backgrounds. I had two major backgrounds with me. One was COBOL, that used to be a language that used to be used on mainframes, the large computers, and there was another one which was AS400, right? In ANZ, there were projects on both. So when I got interviewed, they told me we have projects on both. But I really wanted to work on the AS400 platform. When I went to work on day one, I realized they have put me into COBOL. And I was very upset. So I
Oh.
continued attending interviews. The week one, I was attending interviews. I would disappear for these interviews, and there was no way they could track me because there were no mobiles, no nothing. Finish the interview and
Interesting.
come back, yeah, in the afternoons. I got all those interviews I cleared, but they were not able to match the salary that ANZ was paying. So I didn't accept any of them. And look at it, I stayed on with them for 16 years. So the things that happen, in the beginning, the 1 week, the first week, or in Manhattan Story, as I told you, negotiating for a higher salary, even if you take some decisions which are unconventional, usually you'll go with a higher salary, or usually you'll want to go to a platform that you want to work at. Eventually turns out to be something that you wouldn't have imagined. So that's how my career has really taken off. Again, with ANZ, I did not quit. There was an outsourcing deal that they did. So all of us who were part of the testing services got rebadged as Capgemini employees because they had outsourced the entire testing to Capgemini. Stayed on there for
Okay.
5 years, and then I ended my corporate career, and I'm doing all the things that I'm doing now, which we'll talk about. Yeah.
Lovely, lovely. So this itself is like like a Bollywood story or a movie story, I would say, right? How do you channelize the resources, the little resources that are available on your way to get bigger leap of faith? So here's a big learning. To me, the first thing is that you don't need to see the entire path. As long as you are able to see few steps ahead, go ahead, take those steps anyway. Like, why am I saying this? Your father said, okay, go join the course, but if I find you a man, I will get you married. And if he says, no, you can't do this, you can't do this. And you agreed. You did not fight for that because you also knew that, okay, he may or may not find the groom may or may not agree to what I am doing. I may or may not get married. So there is a lot of may and may not. There is a lot of ifs and buts and conditions that are there, and based on those conditions you shouldn't stop yourself from doing what you can do best at that point in time.
Right. So that
Right.
is, yeah, go ahead, Nirja. You want to add something there?
No, I was just going to say, if I contrast that with my mother, because a generation earlier, right? So
Mhm.
she finished her BSc, and she was a very good student, math student. So it runs in her genes. I've also done maths. My daughter's also done maths. You're doing, maths major. And she wanted to do an MSc. She got a seat. But my grandmother said, no, the same thing. We're going to get you married. And she said, same thing. My grandmother said, if the boy comes, you will have to quit. Stop it. She said, you have to give me 2 years. I want to finish the MSc. My grandmother wouldn't agree. My mother stayed at home for 2 years. They found my father only after 2 years. She always regrets it. She always regrets it. She says, I should have, so that's the point. Can we just stop thinking about what may happen? Just
Yeah.
take whatever comes our way, grab it and make the most of it, and you see how that.
Absolutely. I mean, setback leadership is all about that. Use your current resources, use your current challenges, and see what you can get out of it and just move with it. Just move your bum, keep going. That's what it talks about, right? I think that's where the biggest lesson is. I mean, I remember. I was the first one in my generation to go out of house, especially women, to go out of house and stay in a hostel and do my studies and do a job, etc., etc. Thankfully, my father didn't say that I'll get you married the moment you passed your BSc, but he said that, oh, the moment I find the right groom, I'll get you married. Yes, I did put my foot down, saying that, okay, I am not going to get married to someone who will want me to display myself like a piece of furniture and all of that. But yeah, it has to be a equal kind of a relationship. But that was our generation, and we were probably a little more rebellious, if you might say that. But Nija, I think you are more resourceful. Let me put it that way, right? Whatever resource is there, let's use that and let's make the best out of it. That's, I think, lesson number one. The lesson number two is, you never know. Your parents mind might change, or people who are now saying no to you may change their decision, seeing your drive, seeing your vigor for something,
Absolutely.
Seeing what you can
Absolutely.
achieve.
right? So never say no forever. Like, I mean, I tell this to my daughter today, who's 12. She uses this sentence a lot. Okay, I will never be able to do this. I said, never say never, right? You should never say never, right? Because that's what makes the growth path ahead of you amazing. And look at you still look, for example, if nobody knew who you are and you went to a place, people probably think, oh, she is one Tamilian, a proper Tamilian homemaker. But hello, behind those unassuming outlook, there is this body of work and experience which you're missing, and that's the best part of you, who you are, Nirja. And I'm truly honored to know you, honestly, right? I mean, this is exciting me so much. You can see it.
Thank you so much, Srijata.
So, Nirja, I know you have taken the path of, or across the river of fire to come where you are today, and you have probably been through n number of glass ceiling stereotypes, challenges and this and that in your in your corporate career, in the last so many years of your career. So tell me something about it. What do you think is a glass ceiling according to you?
So let me start by again asking this question to our viewers. Where do you see those glass ceilings? Right? Of course, it's called glass ceiling, so you may not necessarily see it. But for an individual who says there is a glass ceiling and hence I'm not able to grow, my first question is, what's your ambition? And largely to the women, I would really want to ask this question because while I generalize, but this is this is what I see in a majority of them, is that we are not very intentional about our careers. Story is the same with me also. But of course, the only difference was I latched on to everything that came my way and I made the best of it, and hence I am where I am. But we are not intentional. So we pick up the subjects in college based on what the janta is doing. 35 years ago, it was science. Even now it is science when my daughter went to look for colleges, and after science, engineering or medicine. It hasn't changed. That's the mindset, because you think that those are the two careers which are going to take you places. Those are the careers which is going to give you the money. That's what is most sought after. And then what happens? You get placed from campus. So you haven't done any research about what kinds of companies, roles, domains. Okay, this company came. College will also tell you, once you get one offer, no more. Right? So you kind of
Yes.
you will probably look around for 2 3 and then pick one and go. And
Yeah.
in that organization, again, there will be a particular path which is laid out, and you're growing that. And that is when every other obstacle comes your way, because you have not thought through what you want for yourselves. I remember Vinita Bali, Britannia ex MD, say this once: ambition does not necessarily mean that you have to become a CEO. How many CEOs can you have, right? Somebody wanting to be the best school teacher also is ambitious.
Absolutely.
It is her ambition, it is her dream, it is the impact that she wants to or he wants to create. And that is what is lacking in many of us. We are not very intentional. We've not thought through our purpose. What is the passion that we have, and hence, what is our dream, and where do we want to reach? So I want to, read a line from this book, which is called Words Matter, written by Shreya Krishnan and Jacinta Jayachandran. You may know of them. So Words Matter is a book which they wrote as 40 words, which has to be there in the vocabulary of girls. It's there in our vocabulary. It starts with ambition. That's the first word. But we define it so differently. The
Yes.
girls define it very differently. So they have written, definitions for each of these words. And ambition, let me just read it out. It says, own your own and be bold and be accepting of your need to succeed. Own it up, chase your dreams. So the question is, what is your dream? I think that is where things are lacking. We just kind
Hmm.
of keep doing something without realizing where we want to go. And then we think, oh, now we've reached that position and the glass ceiling and whatever else terminology you want to kind of call it out. If it is your dream, you clearly know why. You will not find any glass ceilings. You will not find any obstacles, because you will make things happen. You will
Yeah.
find a way to achieve that and go beyond that. So that's what my take on glass ceiling is. Without answering whether it exists or does not exist, people can reflect. My take is that if you know where you want to go, you will be able to go. But the question is, do you know what is the purpose? Needs deep reflection and introspection, starting at a very young age. If you have not done that, can you do it now? It's never too late. That's going to tell you, how to kind of navigate the system.
So true, so true. I mean, this reminds me of my early days. Till I was 16, 17, probably I had no clarity on what I wanted to do with my life. I was like one happy go like teenager going around with just do. I would say flowing with things, right? And then suddenly at the age of 18, I remember seeing in a magazine cover, right? I think it was Business World, one of the business magazine. I don't exactly remember which one was it, but on the business cover of the magazine, there was picture of Kiran Shaw Mazumdar, and she was featured in that edition of the magazine, and I saw it, and in that moment I had a dream, and the dream was to become the best entrepreneur on earth. Right, this I'm talking about the age of 17. Those days there was no there was no entrepreneurship classes. I was not even aware of the term entrepreneurship. I just wanted to be like her. That's what was my dream. Now, what do I do? What do I do to take that dream to the next level? I was a very good student. I was really in the top runners in the class, and everyone thought my after my 10th I would pick up science as my major. But guess what? I picked up commerce, which was termed as for people who were the last benchers, who didn't want to do good in their career, who didn't want to study, who just wanted to loiter around and things like that. And I picked up commerce as my major. Everyone in my family, my teachers, my well-wishers, everyone came up to me and said, why did you do this? But I had a reason behind it. I wanted to learn business. I wanted to know business more so that I could one day be like her, like Kiran Mazumdar Shaw. So that is what I call dream. Like, I mean, even though everyone is saying in the world that this is not for you, you are a great student, you should pursue science, you should probably go after being an engineer or a doctor, but I don't want to do that. That clarity is something I think is very important. That's point number one. Secondly, Nirja, I remember in the first section you talked about, should I choose this or should I choose that? Should I choose my career where I can earn, or should I choose my study, which is very, very important too? I think, you know, I remember Indra Nui saying this once, that you can't have it all.
Right.
And somehow that did not strike a chord with me. I really respect her, honestly. I really feel great about her achievement. But when she spoke this particular sentence did not, I would say, resonate with me. And I resonate with what you said, that you can actually have it all. You have the choice to choose it all, provided you go ahead and seek right help from the right person.
That's right.
And that's where it changes. Like today's world, in fact, currently during the COVID times, I speak to a lot of women leaders and they're facing challenges. How do I take care of my house? How do I take care of my work in the perfect way? There is so much more has come on our way. Everybody is at home and there is so much happening, and blah and blah and blah and blah and blah. So I just say that reach out. You have family members in the house, you have your partner, you have your kids, you have probably your parents or in-laws or whoever. Just seek help, divide the work, maybe that will help you. And I think that's a very important mindset for all of us to know, that we must seek help. We should stop judging ourselves as superwomen. We can do anything and everything.
That's true.
Don't you
And
think so?
absolutely, I ask everywhere. I mean, I narrated a story of in the organization, but at home also. And I have to tell you this, Srijata, that as soon as the pandemic hit in March 2020, April, when the lockdown and no maids and no cooks and all of that, the person, the 25-year corporate career, and then having run an NGO and being at a college and all of that, who was always outside the house. So there was a system in place. There were things people knew, and it would run so smoothly. The minute I was at home, I was responsible for breaking that system, and I have to tell you that. Let's not blame somebody else. I suddenly felt I have to set the table. I have to clean the table. I have to make the coffee at 3:30. And so everything, from jhadu, pocha to, the cooking to the bartan to everything, I was taking on. And I was hoping somebody would come and extend a helping hand. Oh, nobody wanted. Nobody did. Everyone was comfortable. Life had not changed for anybody else in the house, right? I did it for day one, day two, day three, 10 days non-stop, did everything. And then on that 10th night, I sat down and I asked my husband, do you realize something has changed? For you, nothing has changed, but for me, everything has changed. And the reason nothing has changed for you is because I'm running the show like this. I can't continue like this anymore. There is a buffet of offerings that you can choose from to help me. Not one or two. Pick up. You want the broom, you want the bartan, you take what you like, but you got to. Of course, he didn't like it, when I said that. But the next morning, things changed. So I think it's also on us. A lot, we kind of say, okay, maybe this is the way it has to be. What will others think? Despite me having run my career with all the support from them and divided responsibilities, when I started being at home, this is how I was doing it. That's what I want to point out. And that asking didn't come on day one. It came on the 10th day when I realized I can't go on. And when you ask, then help does come. And the second most important is, can we just let go of a few things? Don't be perfectionists. So yeah, if there is a little bit of dust on the table, don't go around and give the person a yelling. The person is not going to do it then you only will have to clean it. It's all right. They will learn over a
Yeah.
period of time, or the dust is not really going to do too much of a harm to you. So that's another problem with the women, the letting go and the perfectionist syndrome. Or I want to show to the world that I can do everything. These are some of the things. Especially if you have a family where there are two daughters-in-law, there's always this comparison that may happen from the other end, but it also happens from the daughters-in-law's end, right? So I have to be better than that person. Why should you even bother about all of that? That's where it comes to, what do you want to achieve in life? And just forget what the rest of the world is talking about. And I'm not saying in a very negative way, I'm not saying don't care attitude, but if you are very clear about, this is what I want to achieve. And like, people give me, I get a lot of flack because throughout my life I've never cooked. I have to be very honest. Okay. It's been something that I am not able to bring myself to do. And of course, the initial years, my mother-in-law ran the kitchen, and then as she was aging, I got a cook. But the minute the lockdown happened, I had to step into the kitchen. So I did a bare minimum, cooking to survive. But people give me a lot of flack for that. A lot of very close friends and women, they say, okay, so you kind of decided to, give up on that responsibility. We don't know what kind of, nutrition is going in, in the family. I really don't bother about it. I may not cook, but I know how to handle it. I know how to get that, organized and delivered to all the people. And the right nutrition also will go into it, because I'm doing the planning, at least, right? I'm doing the planning. The execution somebody else is doing. So don't bother about all these, people who come and say 100 things about you, as long as you're very clear about what you want.
So true, so true. I mean, in fact, I did the same thing. The moment the maids and the cooks disappeared, I'm like, now I know what's going to happen in the house. And I'm not a person who can cook on a daily basis either. I treat cooking as a meditation or something that's like a unwinding thing, and you don't unwind on a daily basis, do you? Right? I mean, so once in a week or once in 2 weeks, weekends, not even weeks, weekends, when I don't have any event, when I'm not speaking at an event, or I'm not coaching somebody, or I'm not appearing in a you know in a conference or something like that, that's when I decide, okay, fine, I'll cook something. But the day I cook in a perfect way, in the sense that I cook a perfect good meal for the family. So that's there. But then to handle the other days, nutrition is going. There is a cook who deals with it. Now, imagine my left hand and my right hand, my cook and my house help, both disappeared. Right? I mean, I can deal with my husband disappearing, my daughter disappearing, but it is difficult to deal with when the house help and the cook disappears, isn't it? So I was like, oh no, now I had to figure out what to do. So good thing what we did is we sat down in the dining table, all of us together. I live in a big family. My parents live with us, my sister is there, I have a dog in the house, so almost 6 7 of us are there who needs to be provided for. And so we sat down and we decided, okay, what are the work that needs to be done, that was done by the house help and the cook, let's put that down. We put that down, we added time against each one of this, and guess what, that entire thing came up to 14 15 hours. So if one person was doing that 14 15 hours of work, and also the professional thing, what kind of stress that person will go through. So exactly like that, I said, okay, there is an array of things that anyone can put their hands onto. Who wants to do the clothes, who wants to do the brooming and cleaning the house, who wants to do the dusting, who wants to do the cooking, and so on and so forth. And that's how we kind of divided the work, each one of us giving 2 3 hours of our time into it. I think that is what women need to take ownership of.
First of
Absolutely.
all,
Absolutely.
first of all,
It is important to make ourselves dispensable. We are not indispensable in this, in any other place, especially in our household, right? We When we are not there, things get managed. Then why wouldn't it get managed when we are there? That's one question. Secondly, yes, you're right. It is important to know what is that is most important for you to achieve. If it is your professional thing, then you will find a way to, I would say, make do with whatever you can do at your home front, and just go ahead with it. Let go of perfectionism and all sorts of nonsensical things like that. So yeah, and I think flack is a flack. It's okay. I mean, even after 17 years of marriage, 16, 17 years of marriage, I can't make a round roti.
So
So it's fine. It's absolutely fine. Now, what has it got to do with the shape anyway? Who cares? Any which case, if it is good, healthy, and it tastes good, how does it matter? What shape is it? Does it really matter? So I think, all those perfectionism we need to let go of our system as women. And seeking help is something that we definitely need to do it at our ends.
So it reminds me of a guilt story.
ask me about it.
So
The first 5 6 years, you know,
Yeah, I mean, why am I saying this? Because when I had my daughter, that's when the guilt, I think, was at the highest peak. I was working. I decided that I'm not quitting my work, and my parents were they're at home. My mother is a homemaker, and she would always say, "I used to take care of my daughters like this, and I used to make sure that they I was always there for their meal time and blah and blah and blah, and you're not there. You're not taking care of her and blah and blah and blah." That used to put me in so much of guilt trip. Then eventually I realized that all these things didn't matter. What mattered was how much my daughter and I bonded, how much time we actually spent together, bonding and quality time that we spent together, not feeding or this thing. I mean, today I feel proud of it, because if something happens, the first one to know would be me in a preteen's life. So if you are the best friend in your preteen's life, that's something I would say. I mean, even today, sometimes I can't share some of the things with my mother, but my daughter easily shares it with me. I think that is where it all boils down to. Tell me your story. You were saying something about it.
yeah, the guilt, right? So I remember, and it will always be there. It has been there in the recent years also. I was moderating a panel discussion much early on in my career. Daughter was much younger, and these are all very senior women leaders. So I thought, let me ask them this question. So I asked, how do you manage when your child comes back with the test marks, school test marks, and she hasn't scored as much as you would have wished for her to score? Don't you feel guilty? Don't you think that if I had been at home and been with her to prepare her for the test, she would have probably gotten more marks? And the response I got was, she said, "What is the guarantee she would have got more? Maybe she would have got lesser if I was at home." And that just did it for me. It said, why do we assume that it is us, the mothers and the wives who can do the best, right? Things could, be better than us if we are not around. So can we just get rid of that guilt? And the recent thing of the guilt was my daughter. So now, of course, we've kind of brought the whole family together. My mother lives downstairs. Of course, I stay with my mother-in-law. So we're all together. So more interactions that my daughter has with both the grandmothers. And in some conversation, I think my daughter is 19. Okay, for some reason she was asking to be fed. Okay, the grandmother was feeding her or something at this age, and I said, "What is this, Sneha?" And she then started narrating stories of how they would feed her when she was young, and all the stories were about grandmothers doing this for her. I said, "You don't remember anything that I did for you?" And she said, "You were never there, Noma. You never fed me." And that guilt came. Oh my God, this girl doesn't remember anything about me when she was young. But there are many other. Then I said, "Something you tell." She said, yeah, you were sitting with me, my homework and the studies. I am today what I am because of you. When it comes to the professional side of things, but yeah, food, you never bothered. So yeah, let's kind of accept that you can't be there everywhere.
Absolutely.
you wanted, you got her the best, right? So grandmoms fed her, she got the best from there. I took care of her education and the way I wanted her to grow up from a, education, knowledge, and a personality perspective. So yeah, she got the best of all the world. So let's just deal with it like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's where it all boils down to, right? Now, let me ask you this around your professional career. And of course, professional and personal is always intertwined, especially for women. We can't have a work life balance. We need to have a work life integration. That's what I feel. There has to be an integrated approach that we have. So, in your career, in your life, have you ever felt been pulled down because of a certain expectation or a certain no, I would say, notion that was put into you, and you had to kind of break open from that? Can you recognize or relate to any of such stories?
Um, so, when we were growing up, in those days, career growth only meant designation. So, team leader, project manager, portfolio manager, business unit head, head of technology. So, I come from a technology background, something like that. And number of people you managed. So, as a team lead, you would have 10, project manager, maybe 25. And as you become a BU head, maybe 300, head of technology, 1,000 or more. That was the notion of growth. And I became a team lead. I must have, managed a couple of teams. And then I saw that without asking me, certain decisions were being made by the management in terms of moving me around. So when you take on a particular team and a challenge, you would like to see it to, some completion, some fruition, some satisfaction. And then of course you have to move on. That is definitely there. I'm not saying that be in that role forever, get out of the comfort zone. But you have to feel that you have achieved what you set out to achieve with this particular project or team. But without asking me, I saw, a couple of moves happening. They would say, okay, Neeraja, from next month you're in this team, which made me reflect, why is it that this is happening? And what should I have in me, or what should people look up at me for, so that they will come to me, they will seek me out and not just push me around like that. And I reflected, so either technology, I should be a deep tech because it's a technology organization, or deep in domain because we were delivering for banks. So banking expert, or the third was a process expert because we belong to, very process driven organizations. Now, at that stage that I didn't want to really go deep technology. I had a fair bit of knowledge, but I really didn't want to go very deep in that. Domain also, I knew I could never be the expert because I don't have a banking background. I'm learning on the job, but I don't have a banking background. But process, something that I knew, I could kind of really follow, and I could actually devise processes which are required for efficient delivery. So I chose to move into what is called as a support function, the quality assurance function. After having managed a team of about 15 people, I moved to an individual contributor role in the quality assurance function. People will not even look at that team. I'm sorry to say, but QA guys are like, oh my God, who is that? I voluntarily went and I said, I'm going to do a 6-month stint in a QA team. People just looked at me, in terms of, and maybe somebody from the outside could have said, she's touching the glass ceiling. Look at her, she's not able to grow beyond a team lead. Because the natural progression is you go this way and more numbers, and you're going into a designation which is not the best of the designations. You have no team members. But I have to tell you that that was a transformational moment for me. And I've done this many, many times in my career. So, with that 6 months of experience from the QA team, when I came out and I was negotiating my next role with the business unit head, I actually got into something which I don't think otherwise I would have got into, if I'd followed the normal path. And from then on, people started seeking me out because I was that process expert who could, fix things, who could kind of, put any kind of a fire, douse any kind of a fire in any challenging situation. And I have to say, there was this person, so after that QA, I went into a team for mortgages and I was running that. And then somebody actually invited me for a meeting. And he told me this: sitting here, I'm looking at how you're managing that team, because that team was one of the most notorious teams. It was known for all the bad stuff that one could. And in this 1 year, you've transformed it. I've been quietly watching you from here and sitting over here. And these were the words he used. Well, you can always call it sexist or whatever, but I know this person very well. He's a gentleman, but he really wanted me to come into his team. He said, sitting over here, I'm thinking how to woo you into my team. And so people are seeking you out. And I went
Yeah.
and I did that. And many times in my career, I've done that. So while I have also managed large teams, but I've done, a complete, transformation to go and, do an individual contributor role where I felt the impact was great. The learning was amazing. And then you will get that learning. So the depth of knowledge is one, but the breadth of knowledge is also important. We call it a T-shaped individual, right? So you got to, widen your horizontal of the T as much as possible. So that's what, I'm able to reflect and remember when you asked this question. And I really want to emphasize, and I'm a Sheryl Sandberg lean in, book fan. So I will say, as she says, right, it's a jungle gym. It's not a ladder. So
Yeah.
you've got to move, horizontally, pick up as much as you can, not only from a knowledge perspective, but build those relationships. When you go this way is when you build those relationships. When you go this way, I don't think you're going to, have too many people, supporting you. So do that. And I think that's what has helped me in my career.
Nice, nice. In fact, you spoke about, I have two things to point out here. And one is, of course, building the relationships. And I feel even till some time back, also, current women, I hope they have got better with it. But building relationship when it comes to professional space didn't come to us naturally.
Right.
We had to force feed it in us, because we always thought networking, spending those off work time with colleagues and so on and so forth, and connecting with them was not our thing, or why should I do it, that kind of a thing. But today we know that relationships do matter, and building those relationships can take you higher. And as you rightly said, that jumping from one to another and making sure that you're learning as many as things. So I want to ask you here, what was your mindset at that point in time? Why did you choose to go from a group role to an off-beaten path of a of an individual role? And what drove you there? Why am I asking this is because we're talking about changes in the mindset here in the women, right? How they think about their career growth and how they think about where they want to move ahead, etc. So I want to really deep dive into it to understand what was your mindset, what made you choose that role.
Yeah. So I'll tell you the backstory here, right? So I was managing, and in the kind of organization that I was working, we were part of a banking captive. So the way captives work is that we don't make money. It's a cost center. The only customer you have is the bank. So ANZ, if I'm working at ANZ, the customer is ANZ. So it's all part of the same unit. So there is no question of profit making and all of that. So you're a cost center, but you still have to be able to bill in some way, be a billable resource, as you say, correct? So all the people who actually do the development, the testing work, they are actually delivering outcomes. The team leads, the project managers, they are actually overheads, you might say. So there was some kind of a formula, which was that 10% of every billable resource is what a project manager can bill. So if I, as an individual, I should have at least 10 people in my team so that my cost is taken care of. So when these movements were happening, right? So I was managing two teams, and they pulled me out, one of the teams from under me, and give it to somebody else. So I became managing a very small team. I had to go and find, because I had to kind of sustain myself, right? 10-member team hona chahiye minimum, and I have only five now. So I'm trying to find, where will I find these other five? It really made me think, what am I after? Uh, shouldn't I sustain myself on the basis of who I am and what I, bring to the table than, 10 people, that I'm managing? Uh, and that's the reflection. What is that core strength that somebody will see in Neeraja and hence will want to keep her in this team or want to bring teams under her? Which is why, as I said, three things came up in my mind, which is technology domain or the process part of it. And I chose the process because it comes naturally to me, and I knew that technologies will change. Domain, maybe tomorrow I will not be working in a bank, for example, but process is always there. So if I become the process expert, then I'll probably be the go-to person. So that's why I chose to go into this team, which was an individual contributor role. There was another, much years later, I did a switch like that. So I was heading this portfolio, which was the Asia Pacific retail banking portfolio for ANZ, huge portfolio. And I was there for 3 years and I brought in plenty of transformations. Plenty, I have to say that. And then I went and did a role which was called a workforce management role. It was an individual contributor role, but the impact was immense. This role had to decide whether what is our workforce strategy. Are we going to hire people into the team? Are we going to contract? Are we going to outsource? Are we going to buy off the shelf solutions? So the entire technology was going to be decided by this one person in this role to say, what is our hiring strategy for this? So from an impact perspective, it's phenomenal, but there was nobody reporting to me. After having managed 100 people in Asia Pacific, coming to just sitting all alone and trying to do this for yourself. But I knew what this will give me. The next leap for me would be something which otherwise wouldn't come, as I said, in the traditional route, because after Asia Pacific business unit head, next you have to become head of technology. You can't just make that leap. You have to also have many other things in you to be able to become the head of technology. So where are you going to get those? So I have known of many leaders, both men and women, who have sometimes gone from technology to HR functions, to all these so-called support functions, and then come back to mainstream, because the amount of learning, the amount of exposure and the knowledge, and hence the decision making that you're able to do is very, very different. So yeah, some of the reasons for me to choose those off-beaten tracks for this.
Yeah, I think that's the lesson here for our listeners and viewers, that, it's important to choose the off beaten path sometimes, because it can truly reduce your journey length. Take a shortcut, but take the shortcut knowingly. Don't just randomly take a shortcut and you hit a roadblock. Just know that yes, there is a shortcut that exists and that can really take me ahead in my career, making me someone who is wooed by the rest of the organization, saying that come join me, and that's the right use of the word woo here, I would say. So I mean, I want to push our discussion towards the book that you are writing, Nirja. I know there is a book that's on the line and it's going to launch very, very soon. And it's in the similar topic. So tell us more about the book. What drove you to write it? What is it that we can expect from it? And how is it coming along?
Sure. So the name of the book, let's start there, right? So I have titled it You Have Arrived. No glass ceilings, no broken rungs, no glass cliffs. So that's what
Super.
the book is all about. What drove me to write it? So I've been writing for a while, small blogs, LinkedIn articles, guest blogs, and all of that. The reason I started writing was when I used to give talks at conferences, meetups. People used to say it's very, very impactful, because most of my talks don't come from research to gyan. They're all experiential, right? So you also do the same thing, I know that. And that touches a chord with the people, because they know you have also gone through the same things and you've been able to do something and come out of that situation, if it was a situation. And if Nirja could do it, if Srijata could do it, then everybody else can do it. And that's what created the impacts. So I realized if a small narration of an experience could create a transformation in somebody else, I must do more of it. And how do you do more of it? Because today there are plenty of online, forums available, but in those days you couldn't be at every other conference. So I said, let me start writing, and it'll have a larger outreach. So with that, I was writing on this platform, Aspire for Her, a phenomenal platform for women. I used to do a monthly column, and while the target audience when I started writing was young girls, 18 to 25-year-olds, in terms of how should they look at their life and careers. It got really, large reviews, rave reviews from men, from women across all age groups. And I decided now it has to become a book. And that's how the book is happening, a compilation of all those blogs, and then I'm adding a few more things. So what is different in this, according to me, is this. When you kind of go into any leadership classes, workshops, trainings, you are told, that look at your body language. Communication is this. Power poses. All of that is, told to you. Well, I'm sure, it has its place. I'm not denying it. Well, I still don't know what is a power pose and never can, probably stand and sit in that fashion. But that will only do that much, right? This topic of there is a glass ceiling. I'll ask the question. You can keep talking about, I did not get the opportunity. What did you do to grab the opportunity? Or what did you do to create an opportunity for yourselves? So the lessons in this book are around that. So if I were to narrate, some of the topics that you will find in that book, it's going to be the time is now. I think we spoke about it, right? Don't keep waiting for the ideal moment. And I have to tell you, Srijata, I'm also, guilty of that. While throughout my career, I did not do that, right? Got this, grabbed it, made use of it, and, went to the next. With my book, I had a target date in mind. And with that target date, I knew that I couldn't go the traditional publisher route because that is going to take its own sweet time, if at all a traditional publisher likes my book. So I was in a hurry. So I decided to self-publish. Now I could not make that date. So it's got delayed. And I'm thinking, if I had continued my self-publishing route, but had pitched my book to a traditional publisher, anyway, so many months have gone by. Maybe it could have got picked up, right? And that is the problem we all have. We kind of overthink instead of just going ahead and doing it. So some of the topics that I have, or all the topics that I write about it, are very different to what you would otherwise find in a leadership or development workshop or a book, because these are my experiences of having grown in my life and in my career. So stop bothering about what anybody says or the rules. There are certain things that if you do, which is again in the minds, and you bring about that mindset change, you will be able to navigate and reach what your dream is. So that's what the book is all about. And
Super.
the narration is also a combination of a story from my life and my daughter's life. And the reason for that is when I started writing it as blogs on Aspire for Her, I was writing it for the younger crowd, right? 18 to 25. So I knew that if I wrote a story from my life, they'll say it works for you. It is never going to work for, us. So I chose to pick up a story from my daughter's life also, either her school or, whatever she's doing now to, talk about. Say, for example, I'm saying treat every interaction as an opportunity. This interaction between the two of us, we don't know what opportunities it's going to bring to the two of us. So can we treat this as an opportunity and, work on it that way? So I will have a story from my life and there will be a story from Sneha's life. So that's the difference in the book. So it's going to have, a flavor of two generations, but the point is the same. The mindset that we are looking at is the same mindset regardless of gender, age, and whatever.
Awesome. I'm excited to read the book. When is it coming out? Please tell us that.
Yes, now the pressure is on me to ensure that I get it out. So we are in September. I should definitely release it in November.
Lovely, lovely. Let us know. We will be happy to support the book
Surely.
launch, support you anywhere with the
Thank
book.
you.
And I'm going to be the first reader of the book. That much I can tell
Thank you
you.
so much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So,
Definitely.
so
We are almost towards the end of the conversation right now, and I have two more very important questions for you. As an individual leader, as a huge leader in the corporate world, and now in the non-profit space as well as in the intellectual space in terms of thought leading space, what do you think other leaders who are struggling at this point in time due to, say, glass ceilings or stereotypes or some kind of blockage that is stopping them from their growth should be doing? Maybe two three things they should be doing to unblock themselves and create that growth path.
Yeah. So the first and foremost, you already spoke about networking. It is important. Get the definition of networking right. That's the first thing. It is not about what can I get from the other person. The minute you start thinking about networking like that, one, you won't feel like doing it. Two, you will never get anything out of it. Okay. Just keep the definition as what can I give to somebody else? How can I be of value to somebody else? And that's networking, plain and simple. The minute you approach somebody else with that mindset, you build a very deep relationship with that person. You can see how things will come back to you. It is a story of my life, always, and not only professionally, even personally. There has been a lot that has come my way because of building those genuine relationships. That's something that, and I always say, you can't dig the well when you're thirsty. So start it now if you've not already started, because you don't know when you will have the need, and even before you have the need, maybe things will come your way. Srijata, all my of course corporate career took its shape, but after that, whether it was heading the Jobs for Foundation, whether the role in the college that I did, or all the other freelance assignments, consulting assignments that I've had till today, have come through networks. And of course, the personal brand that I've also built over a period of time is very important. The other thing I always say is, everyone should ask for money when you're working. I'm not going to say no to that. But everything is not just about money. I spoke about it in the very beginning also, right? I did not choose the other offer, which was of a higher remuneration, because there were other parameters that I looked at. Now, here I'm trying to say, when you are in a particular job, can you also, along with it, do a few things which will take you towards the higher purpose and the passion that you have, which will also enable a different kind of a learning, which is not going to happen in your organization or whatever setup you are in. So I will give you an example. A very close friend of mine, so she's also been in the IT world for so many years. She came to me and she said that I would like to do a small gig along with this. Not because there is a need for money or anything, but she has time available now. So I said, yeah, then pick up a gig which is very different to what you are doing now. And even if it means there is no money in that, it's fine. And she was debating with me, why should you spend time, without money coming your way? I said, the learning is going to be phenomenal. And she's actually doing that. She's actually helping a startup uh, build their capabilities so that they are able to pitch to investors. Now, she has no such background. My friend has no such background. But in doing that, the amount of networking, the amount of learning that she's doing, tomorrow, if she decides to start on her own, it will be a cakewalk for her. So
absolutely.
that's what I would really urge everyone to, not do something else for the money alone, but look at something which will enhance you as a human being, enhance your capabilities, so that you become more rounded and holistic. It will eventually take you places.
Superb. So, two learnings here. Of course, do networking right. Instead of taking approach should be that I give out, what can I give out to my network? And that in turns, I mean, they always say givers gain. So that's the tendency. And I think you're right. Don't dig the well when you're thirsty. You need to do it beforehand. When you do not have the need, that's the right time to start working on your network, start working on your relationships. And second thing, that's the biggest learning for me is that continuous learning in variety of areas other than your professional space
Do you really want to grow?
to the higher purpose, then you have to learn. You know, I make it a point, for an example, for my continuous learning, to read books,
So
Sure.
every month I read at least
2 to 3 books. And I also am part of a book club where we discuss books on a weekly basis. So every week, 7, 8 of us join together and we discuss 7, 8 different books. So can you even imagine the kind of learning that I get from not even reading on my only my books, but also from other books that I am listening and knowing about from others. So why don't the listeners here, the audience here, can go ahead and do something like that together to learn more, expand their, I would say, expand their horizons in terms of learning.
great,
And there are plenty of
great suggestion.
opportunities. Plenty of opportunities. Can you go and attend some small meetups, big conferences? Today it's online, so you don't even have to. I would always say get out of your comfort zone if you have to go to a meetup, and especially if you don't have anyone coming along with you, go. Because if you go with people that you will never break that circle and meet another a stranger. Today everything is online. Don't keep thinking about is this is not in the line of work that I do. So attend as many diverse events. Yeah, and these kind of podcasts, these kinds of interviews, I think the amount of knowledge you get from that, you will never get in an MBA school, I'm sure, for that.
Yeah, so true. Here comes the last question on your way, Neerja. You've been a veteran corporate leader. So this question is from an organization point of view. So I see a lot of organizations actually say that we are diverse, we take care of, equality and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, these are only talks and not much things are happening in the, execution level. So what would be your suggestion to organizations who truly, genuinely want to bring in the, or rather remove the challenges of glass ceilings, stereotypes, and other kind of uh, stereotypical mindsets in the path of growth for their leaders, that is hindering the growth of their leaders? What should they be doing? 2 3 action points that they can do to make a genuine change in their organization.
Yeah, so I think most of the companies, when they talk about DNI, they will do a few things, right? They will send the women to some leadership development program. They will find, the high potentials and, do something special for them. Um, and a lot will get done only for the women. So one of the things, while you need to do, I'm not, you should keep at it. Don't stop those practices. But one of the things is the men also need to know. Sometimes you can't just blame them. It might just be that they have never seen and experienced something like that, and hence they are not empathetic towards that, or they don't realize that is where the woman is coming from. Like in my own case, I being a woman, when my organization first asked me to hire women on a career break, my first question, what is the big deal? Why are you doing such a big thing about it? You hire men, you hire women on a career break. Because I have never taken a break. So I didn't realize that there is so much of stigma attached for a woman on a career break. And then with the research I realized, and now I do so much for women on a career break and other women also. So don't blame. I think you have to bring men into the discussion, into the mix when you're doing certain programs. That is definitely something that is needed. Two, you need to have champions. While the leadership can have targets and you're going to just push it down, if you really want them to understand it beyond target, then you need to have champions on the ground. So find those champions who are going to be able to talk at the grassroots level, understand the challenges, and see what can be done differently. We always say, right, when we want to launch a new product, don't make assumptions that this is the problem that has to be fixed. Go and ask the customer, what is your problem, and then design the product exactly like that. And sitting at the top, you will not be able to understand what the problem is and the pain area is. So you need to have champions on ground who will be your ears and eyes, and will also be able to then suggest fixes. So employee resource groups, and these are very, very important. That's why I give more focus to having mentors, having coaches, sponsors, be part of networking events, shadowing, leaders, all of these, as against just putting her into a 3-day developmental workshop. This is what is going to really, get her to that place than, just going through a 3-day leadership development program. That's what I would like to see.
Lovely, lovely, and I think that sums it all in a beautiful way. How organizations can be champions themselves to get rid of such kind of challenges in their leadership, teams and in their growth path. Right. With that, I think we are almost the close of the podcast, and I just want to say thank you, for bringing out so much of wisdom, so much of value in this. We have been talking for more than an hour right now, and that's what happens when you get a person like Neeraja on the show. So watch out for a longer episode this time, is what I would say. But yeah, amazing takeaways, Neeraja. I loved our conversation, and I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart that you chose to come and share all your experiences with us.
My pleasure. And I never say no to such opportunities, because I know this can impact so many and, bring about, even if one takeaway, we might have spoken 100 things, but even if one thing, somebody chooses to implement, they can see the transformation in their lives. So thank you for having, such platforms where people like me can come and share.
Whoa, whoa. What an inspirational conversation it was, wasn't it? Hearing Neeraja's story, didn't you feel that a part of you was part of Neeraja as well? What was that one thing that you learned from this conversation? As Neeraja mentioned during her talk, that even if you pick just one thing from this entire conversation and implement in your life, you're going to see a huge transformation in your career and growth path. What has been my learning from this? Well, there are 4 things that I want to talk about. The number one, and one of my favorite, I completely vouch by this, is networking and creating relationships. As Neeraja spoke about, networking is not about getting, it is about openly giving, and give as much as you can give. While you're giving, you're actually creating a well for yourself when in the future you may get thirsty. So think about it from that perspective. Secondly, what Neeraja mentioned was about continuous learning. Think about it and ask yourself this question: are you learning anything other than what you're supposed to do in your workplace? If yes, you are at a good path. If you're not finding the time to learn new things, new skills, then it's time to reflect and take that time out. For organizations, what she spoke about is creating champions who can then ask people in what do they want to see in the organization to change in terms of diversity, inclusion, in terms of breaking glass ceilings, in terms of breaking stereotypes, and many more. Secondly, before you plan any policy, any leadership program, any solution for your team, for your leadership team, especially for women, ask them like you ask others. What problem are they facing and where do they need help? So go ahead, implement these things in your organization, in your professional life, and I'm sure you will see a change. What has been your single biggest learning? Tell us that in the comments. Share your thoughts with Neeraja. I'm sure she would listen and feel great about it. And most importantly, if you would like to know more about Setback leadership, read my book, which is freely available on Amazon. All you have to do is hit the search button using the name Setback Leadership. Let me know how do you like it, and let me know what else do you want to see in our podcast. Happy to hear your thoughts and bring what you need. With that promise, this time I'll go and see you in the next episode.